Hey guys, today I thought that I would talk about an experience, well, multiple experiences really, of a haunted house. And I mean a real haunted house, not one that you pay to be scared in. I had to write everything down and take notes because it's got a lot of history to it, the length of the story. As far as I know, it started back in the 90s, the sightings or whatever. But I used to live in a very haunted house, and part of me loved it and part of me was terrified of it, depending on what was going on. But it all led up to one day where my best friend and I had some pretty crazy experiences, so I'll get into that later. But let me lay out the background of the house and where we think the haunting may have come from. So my husband grew up in this house, and I moved in with him when I was 20, and his dad was renovating the house, the old house, and he had built this separate two-story apartment. It was like a little garage, and then right above it a tiny one-bedroom apartment for my husband, my boyfriend at the time, to stay in while he was renovating the house. So I ended up moving in there and lived there for many years. I don't know how long exactly, but I had been to the house prior to moving in, prior to them even building the apartment, back when they actually lived in the house. My husband grew up in this house when he was little, and his dad was a police officer. So he worked odd shifts. A lot of times he'd work throughout the night. And my husband's mother, Scott's mother, Tracy, would sometimes like lay on the couch, sort of doze off, waiting for her husband to get home, because she just wanted to make sure she knew he came in, because he was a police officer. You never knew what was going to happen. She had Scott and his older sister Leslie, so it was just her and the two kids in the house while they would be waiting for their dad to get home. The kids would be asleep at this point. The first sighting, I guess you could call it, was one of those nights where the mom was staying up late, and she said she saw a little boy who looked to be, from her sleepy haze, Scotty. And she told him to go back to bed. She kind of sat up and said, go back to bed, whatever. And he walked into the kitchen away from his bedroom, and she followed him in there, and he was gone. And she noticed that he had overalls on for some reason, I think she said. She said it almost looked like he was dressed like someone from the 20s or something. But she just thought it was weird that he was wearing that. She noticed it, and she went and checked on her kids, and they were both in bed asleep. Nobody else was in the house. And I think she told this story to somebody, and they told her a little background. But the house that they lived in was so old, it did not face the street. It actually faced the main road about half a mile down, and there were plenty of other houses built on that, what used to be, I assume, all their property. Apparently, I don't know that this is true. I don't know any background on the house. But apparently there was a little boy there who passed away from one of the old like boilers, wood burning stoves or whatever that they used to use to heat up the house. Somehow there was like an explosion or something and killed a little boy. That was what she was told. I don't know the validity of that, but that's all we've heard. So she saw the little boy. Also, this is very strange, and I have not figured out how this or if this ties into this ghost story. But when she was pregnant with Scott, Leslie was very little at the time, and she had, I think, a Sesame Street phone, like a toy phone, and she would talk to it a lot. And I believe she said there was someone that would call her from the phone, like she had a name for whoever it was like her imaginary friend. And her imaginary friend told her to push her mom down the steps when she was pregnant with Scotty. And I guess she just told her mom, that's what it, so-and-so said, I should push you down the steps. And she didn't know what that meant or anything. She may have just heard that somewhere and repeated it to her mom, but it was weird. Then that incident happens when Scott is about, 5, 6 maybe. And then as he got older, he had a friend who used to come over and play named Derek. And apparently every time Derek came over, he would get hurt or almost get hurt. Like things would fall, he would trip over stuff that wasn't on the floor or trip over nothing, or what have you. And the most strange of all these incidents was when they were kids. I don't know exactly how old, maybe 10 or so, but they were laying in his bedroom, lying on the floor, and they were playing a video game. And Scotty said that out of the corner of his eye, he saw his entire dresser with all his clothes and everything starting to fall towards them, and it would have landed right on his friend Derek. And at the last second, he grabbed his friend and moved him out of the way, and it hit the floor really hard. And that was just weird, that every time Derek came over, he almost got hurt, and a whole dresser like happens to fall on this kid. And luckily, he didn't get hurt. Nothing happened. Well, one of my best friends, Heather, her grandparents lived next to Scotty, so they grew up together. She would be over there all the time playing. And she's always told me, ever since all this other creepy stuff happened, that she never liked that house. She never liked going in the house. She would go over there all the time, but she always had a really weird feeling about it. After I moved in, actually prior to me moving in, when they still lived in the house before they built the separate apartment, I would be over there with Scott hanging out, and we would hear like footsteps walking around the house. And the way the house was built, and certain rooms had been torn down already, but it was still a solid structure with, you know, closed in walls everywhere. But it was basically like a big square. So you had like the living room that stretched out over, that was kind of like their dining room to the living room, and then a doorway back to the bathroom, and then a doorway through here back to a bedroom, and then a door connecting those, and a closet right in the middle. So it was like one big square. And I would hear it. Sometimes I'd be there alone. I would go over there and Scotty wasn't there yet, and I'd be like, oh, hey, I'll meet you over there. And his dad was really cool. We always hung out with him anyways, and if he wasn't there, I'd just go in and get on the computer and just be watching YouTube videos or something. And I would hear someone walking around me, like a grown man walking around the house. At this point, I'd already heard a lot about the house and had already sort of had my feelings about the house, so I wasn't surprised. And I remember not being scared. I just remember being like, someone's in here walking around. And the first time I heard it, I got up and, you know, obviously looked around and no one was there. I think I mentioned it to Scotty, and he said, yeah, that happens sometimes. And from then on, I just ignored it. Whenever I heard it, it was like, oh, hey, you know, and then I'd go back to whatever I was doing. Then when he had the apartment and I moved in with him, the apartment was kind of catty-cornered to the house, so the back corner of the old house was where they started building the apartment. So if it's two building squares, this is the apartment back here, and this is the house up front. And in the apartment, to get upstairs, there's a staircase right here going up. And at the bottom of the staircase is a window in this old house. So I always got major creeps from that window. That window shattered one day. I think Scotty tried to open it for some reason, and it just slammed down and completely shattered. Well, no one was living in the house anymore, and they were having plans on tearing it down. They haven't done so yet. We've just been cleaning it out, and then it had some roof damage during some storms, so it's just kind of there. It's got a little bit of storage in it, whatnot. But so for that window, since it wasn't heated or air conditioned anymore, since nobody lived in there, we didn't have anything that needed it, my husband just put up like black tarp. I don't know what you call it, but it's like that plasticky, thick black stuff that you can hang. So he just hung that up, and sometimes it was kind of like a curtain, so it would like blow in the wind and stuff. But even before he put that up, and it was just the window, and even after he put it up, you always felt like someone was watching you climb the steps up to the apartment from behind you. It was scary. Like, I'd get out of my car and walk around to the staircase, and the whole time it was like I didn't want to look at that window because I felt like someone was going to be in the window. A year or two later, my little brother Tyler and Heather are over at my house and we're hanging out. And at this point, I didn't know much about the ghosts other than me being in the house and hearing the footsteps and the story that his mom had told. But it creeped me out. I wasn't quite comfortable with it yet. I got really comfortable with it at one point, and I'll get to that. So Tyler and Heather were over, and I didn't like talking about it at the house, because whenever I talked about it at the house, more stuff started happening. whether it was things getting misplaced that we didn't move. It would be things that, like, of mine that Scotty never touched or would never need to, you know, like something that was put away somewhere that he would have no need to get and move. And same with his stuff. And I would hear noises when I was there by myself, just creepy things like that. And again, I had this intense feeling coming from that window. Now, that window also happened to be next to what used to be his sister's bedroom when she had this Sesame Street toy. That bedroom had been torn down, so the window was right next to it on the remaining wall. And her bedroom was also over a very old bomb shelter. Not like a closed-in bomb shelter, more like a storm shelter, but it was like all concrete shelter. So that was just kind of creepy, as you know, as is. We don't know who built it, whatever, but it was there. So that's sort of where this feeling came from, not down like in the shelter or anything, but that corner of the house, that back corner of the house. So Tyler and Heather are over, and I think Heather asked me something about the house, and this was the first she and I had ever talked about it. And she flat out told me, I don't like that house. Like, how, I don't understand how you can live here and not be creeped out by that house. You can't tell me it's not scary. And I said, well, yeah, honestly it is. And I've heard some things in the house, and I know Tracy has seen some things, my mother-in-law. And Tyler and I have always grown up loving paranormal stuff, and Heather has too, but Heather was more afraid of it because she grew up around it. So I was telling them, you guys want to go over to the house? Because I had a lot of old clothes and old storage from when I'd moved in still in there. And every time I had to go over there for something, like, oh, you know what, I forgot to unpack this thing, or I want to find my old yearbook or something, it would be over in that house. And every time I went into that house, I could feel someone in the back corner where that window was just staring at me. And I would go in and out as quickly as I could, and the whole time under my breath, I'd be going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like, it was a really overwhelming feeling that you were intruding on somebody. So I took Tyler and Heather over to the house. Heather very begrudgingly came with us because she didn't want to be left alone. We walked into the living room area, the beginning of that square area, because there's a kitchen and a hallway back behind that. That's kind of how you get into the house. And the second we walked in that door, Tyler stopped. And Heather didn't want to come in the door, but she was kind of there. And I walked in and I looked at him, and he just kind of was staring very strangely. And I said, what do you know, what's going on? You feel it? I knew it. I said, do you feel anything? Like, is it creepy? Is it just a house? You know, like, what do you feel? And he said, I feel like someone's staring at me. And I said, from where? And he pointed to that fucking corner where I have always felt someone staring at me. And I think Heather started crying, and I was like, yes, like someone else knows what I'm talking about. Like, this is totally a haunted house. This is weird. And we just went back up to the apartment and stopped talking about it completely because, again, I didn't like talking about it because it made things worse. So it was almost like I think I like whispered most of the story to them before we even went over there. And I told them, when we're in there, I'm not going to say anything about it. And then that's when I just asked, do you feel anything? And then Tyler said that. A couple years go by, and then stuff started to get really weird. I don't know why it started in this. I have a theory on why it started in this one year. And let me get into that right now. Again, the only story that we ever heard on the house, and this was never validated, so this could be complete bullshit for all I know. But it makes sense with the things that you're about to hear about and the things that had happened in the past. I believe that something happened to a young boy in that house. I don't know that he got killed by a boiler explosion. I don't know that he got killed. I don't know if he died of influenza. I mean, apparently this was a very long time ago. Again, this is an extremely old house, so anything could have happened. I believe that a young boy died and his mother mourned his death. I believe that this woman, I don't know what the deal is with the phone. I don't tell ghost stories. This fucker's gonna follow me into our house. I don't understand how the phone, the Sesame Street phone, ties into this, unless it was a jealousy and a vengeful jealousy in that this mother, her presence was still in the house, and she didn't think it was fair that Tracy was having a little boy when she'd lost hers. That's the only way I can tie that in. It's a very loose tie to the story, so you can completely throw that out as bullshit if you want. I don't care. That's just the only way I've been able to logic it. I bring up the mother because the mother was the next person we started seeing. And what's interesting about her is that she didn't show up until Scotty and I started discussing moving out and finding our own house. And then stuff started happening. And it was always around me. Scotty never saw anything. Let me put that in here too. Scotty never saw anything. He saw the dresser almost fall over in his friend. He thought it was weird that his friend almost always got hurt. He believed his mom saw a little boy. He believed his sister was told to push his mom down the steps. But it was almost like he was mad he never saw anything. I remember he used to be like, well, how come it's happening to you and not me? I want to see something if it's true. And the day that I'm going to get to that was really crazy, I think he still thinks that my best friend was just hardcore fucking with me, but there were things that happened that we couldn't have done to each other. I start seeing this woman. My neighbors start seeing this woman. My neighbor who's lived there for a long time. And my best friend starts seeing this woman. We all see this woman in different places, and she looks the same, but she has a different color to her for each of us. The first time I had an inkling that there was a female presence was in that house. Because, like I said, when I would go in there and I would be really apologetic and really scared and feel someone staring at me and feel this evil presence, I don't know how to explain how I felt that it was a female presence, but I felt like it was a female presence. I felt like almost when you see in movies or something where there's like the really bitchy girl in school and she's just staring daggers and shooting insults at some nerdy little girl or something, like the hatred is just like palpable. That's what I felt. It didn't feel like a jealousy in that she wanted to be me or anything like that. It felt like she didn't like me for some reason. Later, I equate it to jealousy because of Scotty. And again, it goes back to her losing her son. I started feeling like there was a female presence in the house. And I thought, well, they've seen a little boy. Maybe it's like her mom or something. Maybe it's his mom or something that, whatever. I don't know. I haven't seen anything. And then again, like I said, we started talking about leaving the house and stuff starts happening. Now looking back, and about a year into it, I realized I think this bad stuff that's happening, these scary things that are happening, not the things being moved around. I blame that on the little boy actually, and I'll get into that as well. But the creepy presence, the footsteps that I would hear up in the apartment, that's the thing, it started coming up into the apartment. And just the unsettling feelings, I knew it was her. I don't know how I knew it was her, but I knew it was her. And I thought, it's because I'm trying to take this little boy who grew up in her house away from her. And she already lost a little boy, so she doesn't like me. The first time I saw her, and this is gonna sound like total bullshit to anyone, unless you've seen some sort of apparition or something, it's gonna sound like total bullshit. But I swear on my life, I swear on my dad's life, I swear on my godson's life, this happened to me. I saw this. Whether I was just hallucinating for some reason, and I've never done that before, whether someone drugged me, I don't know. Whether we had a gas leak that fixed itself, I don't fucking know. But this happened to me. So I was lying in bed one night. My husband was out in the living room. Again, we had a tiny little one-bedroom apartment. And I was lying on my side facing the wall away from the bedroom door. And the door was cracked, so there was a little bit of light coming in from the living room. The rest of it was dark, and I was watching my iPad. I always watch my iPad when I go to sleep, or I'll listen to a podcast or something. And I was on my side facing away from the door. I felt the unmistakable presence of someone staring at me, really hard staring at me, and it was that same feeling from the house. And I rolled over, and I don't know why I was this calm. And I've heard this of other people's experiences too, and they say they're weirdly calm when they see something like this. And I always thought it's bullshit, or you're in a trance or something like that. But I did not feel like I was in a trance. I was not asleep. I was not half asleep. I was watching my iPad and I felt someone staring at me, and I rolled over. And when I rolled over, I was staring right at this dark figure. Now, the way I describe it is sort of like statues of the Virgin Mary. She was a tall, slender woman, and she looked to be wearing sort of a veil of some type, but not like a bride, just sort of like a very old-timey veil for some reason. I don't know what time period she would have been from. I don't know. I doubt it was that far back. If this little boy looked like he was from the 20s or something, I don't know if maybe she was dressed in mourning or something, but she was just a black figure. I didn't see her face. I didn't see solid features, like I couldn't see where her arms started and ended and whatnot, but I saw her shape, and she was this black, dark shadow in the room. And there was light coming in from there, so it wasn't pitch black, and it wasn't like how your eyes can play tricks on you. There was a black shadow standing in the room. And I was very calm, and I just stared at her for a second, and I said, "You need to leave. You can't be here." Because that's what my grandmother always used to tell me to say. My grandmother famed herself for being a witch, and she would always say, when you see things out of the corner of your eye, try and hold on to it because it's a ghost. And if you ever really see a ghost and you feel that it's a bad presence, you need to let it know that this is your home. They cannot be here. They need to leave. You can say it very respectfully. You need to go on, you need to move on or whatever. And I told her she needed to leave, and I rolled back over, and then I rolled over again a few seconds later, and she was gone. And I think I don't know if I told my husband about it right away, or if I told him after I heard Jessie, my best friend, say that she had seen the woman, and then it was like I had backup, like I really saw something. But my husband and Jessie's husband make masks together, and in September we usually go to this convention in Indiana, and they make like Halloween masks and stuff, collectibles. So there was this day where we were all over at our house getting a ton of work done. It was crunch time, and we wanted to get a bunch of work done for Mass Fest. So all four of us are over there. My husband Scott, my best friend Jessie, her husband James, and me. Well, when we were downstairs, there's a concrete landing between the apartment and the old house, and it's right where that window is, that creepy window. As we were standing there, I saw the woman again in the window. I saw her shape in the window. And I remember just kind of being like, oh shit. And Jessie noticed. And Jessie looked at me and she said, "What's going on?" Because she knew that there had been little things and that I had suspected the house was haunted. She's like, "What's happening?" And I said, there's just a lot of weird things that have been happening around here lately that I'll have to tell you about. Because again, I didn't like talking about it in the house because things got worse. So Jessie said something along the lines of, "Oh, I already know." And I said, "What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about?" And she said that she had seen something. I think she said she saw it on the front porch of the old house. But she had seen a woman, and she was dressed in blue, in a blue dress. And I was like, holy shit, I've seen a woman too, but she's always in black for me. And I think that goes back to I was trying to take this boy away from this home. Jessie was not trying to take him anywhere, so Jessie probably saw her in blue because Jessie wasn't a threat to this woman in any way. After a day full of shit that I'm about to go into that happened, later we went next door to get away, and we went over to my neighbor's house because she had a swimming pool, and we went swimming, and the neighbor started telling us that she had seen a woman dressed in blue over there, and she had seen her up in our apartment when nobody was home, walking around like she could see her in the window. And she would go up to, like, we trusted this neighbor, she was really close with us, she would go up to check and see who the hell was at our house when nobody was home and nobody would be in the apartment. So the day that everything happened was a really weird day. We're making masks. We have crap everywhere. Plastic, strings, posters, you name it, we've got it. And everything's just sort of trashed all over the apartment. Scott and James were outside, downstairs in the shed, painting masks for a good hour or two. And Jessie and I were upstairs in the apartment by ourselves. And for some reason, I guess just because we were in such work mode, we didn't have the TV on, we didn't have any music playing, anything. We were just sitting in silence doing what we needed to get done. And I believe the first thing that happened was that I saw in the reflection of the TV someone like running behind me, like darting into my bedroom. And the way the living room was set up, I was sitting in the recliner, and the recliner is facing the TV, which is catty-cornered. And so it kind of makes a direct line from TV to recliner to behind me is our bedroom door. And our bedroom door was actually catty-cornered too. So I just kind of like saw it, and I was like, that's weird. And I kept going back to what I was doing. And then a few minutes later, I saw it again, and Jessie moved her head at the exact same time and said she just saw something like in the reflection. And I just remember being like, fuck, this kid like is here, something's going on. And I know it wasn't a real kid. I knew what the fuck was going on. And I was like, not today, man, we're busy. Why do you have to do this today? So obviously I went back into the bedroom to check, and obviously there was nobody there. So we had all these masks lying all over the living room floor, and we lost one of them at one point. And it was this really creepy clown mask, of course. And I went into the bedroom, and I can't remember if this was, I think one time, like after everything happened and after we told our husbands what was going on and they didn't believe us, I think her husband went and hung the clown mask up in our bedroom, like above our TV, to fuck with me. So I think my memory is of me walking in, it being up there, but I know that's not right. I think it was like on the bed or something. We'd been trying to find it everywhere, and only she and I were in the apartment. And for some reason, and she'd been sitting in the same spot, and so had I. And couldn't find it. We thought, okay, well, maybe the boys took it downstairs, because we were trying to count how many we had, and we had like 8, and we were supposed to have 9. Maybe the boys took it downstairs. That's fine, whatever. Let me go in the bedroom really quick and grab something, and I'll be right back out. And I walk in the bedroom, the fucking mask is like on the bed or some shit. And I remember picking it up and bringing it out to her, like, what the fuck? And she was like, did you put that in there? And I said, no, I didn't even go in there. She's like, that's really weird. Okay, whatever, just something got misplaced. So then I put the mask down on the floor a good 2 or 3 feet in front of the recliner, so that when I sat down on the recliner, when I came back, because I put the mask down, went into the kitchen for something, and when I came back, I didn't want to sit on the recliner and make it rock onto the floor and break the mask. When I came back and sat down, the mask was right underneath the recliner and like facing me. And Jessie freaked out. So this could have been something Jessie did. But she freaked out and was like, oh my God, Haley, it's right. Why is it right under you right now? Like, she saw where I put it. And I was like, this is fucking weird. So I grabbed it and I tossed it back in the pile where it went. So we're sitting there, I'm in the recliner, and Jessie is over here, kind of facing this way on our couch. She's just a few feet away from me. And I believe it was, I can't remember if it was my ear or my arm. I think it was her ear and my arm. I literally felt a finger go like this, and it gave me fucking goosebumps. Like a finger went up my arm, and she said she felt it go like down her ear, like literally a finger, not like a breeze, like a finger. And we both, at the same time, we didn't say anything. Like the second it happened, we both grabbed whatever it was and looked at each other, and we were like, did you just feel that? And she's, yeah, oh my God, you know, we're both freaking out because we're feeling someone touching us. And we're getting frustrated at this point. Like, we're getting delirious and frustrated because it's weird, it's creepy, it's kind of funny because shit, like random shit's just happening and there's no explanation for it. These two are probably the weirdest things that happened. And they're not scary, they're just unexplainable, I guess. So again, we're all working on making masks. We're all busting ass all day getting masks and stuff done, painting, and we don't have an unlimited amount of supplies. So whatever we have, we're scrapping, we're using other things to, you know, finish putting a poster together or something. We're not wasteful with our supplies. We lose an entire bag of cotton balls somehow that were in the bathroom. Our bathroom is really small. And when you walk in, there's a toilet right immediately to your right and a tiny little sink, and on the opposite end is like a standing shower. And they were sitting on the sink laid against that back wall, and they were gone. And I think like I glanced in there or something, and I was like, I don't know where they're at. And then I think my husband came upstairs at this point, and James, and I walked into the bathroom right at that moment. And Jessie had not been in the bathroom. And even if she had been, she wouldn't do this because, again, we're like scrapping supplies here trying to finish everything. And she's not at her house, she's at my house, so she wouldn't do this to my stuff. But I walk in the bathroom to use the bathroom, so I flip on the light, and the cotton ball bag is completely empty. And it's laying kind of upside down, leaned against the back wall on the floor. And I was like, the fuck? Where are all the cotton balls? Why is this laying on the floor? And I think I picked it up and took it out and was like, Jessie. And she said, where did you find that? Where are all the cotton balls? I said, I don't know. And I walked into the bathroom and I shut the door, and they were all on the shower floor. Someone had dumped them out of the bag onto the wet shower floor where someone had showered that morning. So we couldn't use them. And Jessie and I were sufficiently freaked. And our husbands are thinking we're fucking with each other at this point, because then they come in and we're like delirious, we're like laughing. Jessie's like, this isn't okay, but she's still laughing because she doesn't know how to handle it. And I'm like, I've been telling you this stuff, like this is weird. And our husbands really think Jessie's fucking with me or I'm fucking with her. So they're totally laughing us off, and they go downstairs. So I go to get my phone to record where I found the bag and where I found the cotton balls. I put the bag back where I found it. And if I have that video clip, I'm going to insert it here. Okay, so this is where I had left a half full bag of cotton balls. That's the bag. We found the bag down here, like sideways. And then we found those. I filmed the sink where it was supposed to be, the floor where it ended up, and then the shower floor where all the cotton balls were. And I literally come out of the bathroom, and I'm the only one in the bathroom, and in the video you can see that I had a little glass vase. I think it had like little beads in it and some of my makeup brushes standing up in it, and then I had an empty water cup near the sink. In the video you can see that my makeup brushes are in that vase. I come out of the bathroom, I stop recording, I turn to Jessie, and she hears this weird sound come from the bathroom. And she's like, stop, did you hear that? Tell me you heard that. I'm like, what? I didn't hear anything. She's like, it sounded like it came from the bathroom where you just were. Did you just make a noise or something in there? Did you move something? And I said, no, I literally just filmed it and like pulled the door shut. She said, it sounded like pencils dropping into a cup. And sure enough, I go back in the bathroom and all of my makeup brushes are moved from the vase into the empty water cup. And nobody else was in there. I literally just stopped filming in there. So then I turned the camera on and I filmed that part. Now, my heart's like, Jessie heard the sound of pencils dropping in a cup. And those are supposed to be in there. At this point, we're sufficiently freaked out. We're done. We've been working all day. It's hot. We want to go next door. We want to get drunk and swim and forget this whole fucking thing ever happened because it's just freaky. So we go over to the neighbor's house. That's when she tells me she's seen someone walking around upstairs. She's seen a woman walking around in the yard. She's seen a little boy over here playing, blah, blah, blah. She's seen all this stuff as well. Well, so a few weeks later, I decided to do a Ouija board against everybody's advice, but nothing bad happened, to see if I could figure out what was going on. And I did one. I lit white candles. I said like a prayer, you know, like I'm here, no, I don't want any harmful spirits, any of this, blah, blah, blah. And I proceeded to do a Ouija session for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and nothing happened. I kept circling the board, nothing happened. I put up a camera in the bedroom, a camera in the bathroom, and a camera on the Ouija board. And I checked those cameras in the bedroom and the bathroom, and they didn't catch anything. Well, the camera that I used for the Ouija board was an old digital camera from like the 2000s. And it was sitting on a tripod just facing down towards the Ouija board. And when I watched that video back, for some reason, the camera is following the planchette as I move it around the board. The camera's panning back and forth. And again, this is not a camera that has that capability. It was not moving. I was sitting right next to it. Nothing was happening, but for some reason in the footage, it's moving with the board, and it was really weird. Again, nothing happened. After the Ouija board, I stopped hearing footsteps, things stopped moving around for a while, everything was good. And I thought, okay, well, whatever it was is done now. Then, I think the last thing that happened was my husband's weird experience of something getting misplaced. This was a few weeks later, maybe a month or two later. It was not long after all that happened because he still did not believe me. I think we had some friends over and he wanted to show them some of the masks that they had worked on for Mask Fest. So he went down to his shed, and his shed was locked with like a combination lock. And the only people who knew the code was him and James lived 45 minutes from us and hadn't been over, you know, anytime recently. So he goes down to the shed and opens the shed up to get this milk crate where he's got all these masks. And it's gone. And it didn't make any sense that it was gone because he remembered putting it in there like that day. He remembered putting it in there in this specific spot, like where it always was. And he came upstairs and he was like, did you go in the shed and move, you know, whatever? And I'm like, no, I don't ever go out there. And he was convinced I had to have moved it or, you know, something. He couldn't figure it out. Maybe James came over today and didn't tell me. Like, this is really weird. It was locked. Nobody could get in there, whatever. And after a while, he's like, okay, well, I guess James came over and got it. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. And I think we kept hanging out with some friends for a little while or whatever. And he went back down there about 30 minutes later. And the crate was right where he had originally looked for it. And he came back up freaked out. And he was asking me, did I do it? And I'm like, how would I have done it? I've been up here. I didn't follow you out there. Every time you came up here, I've been here. And I remember him just looking like so incredulously, like, there's no way. I looked. You came down there and looked. Like I did. I went down there and I tried to help him find it and it wasn't there. You came down there and looked and then you came back up here, right? And I came and I locked the thing, you know, and he's trying to like work it out in his head. And I just remember smiling at him going, this is exactly what happened to me. Like, this is the stories that I was telling you and you thought Jesse was fucking with me. Well, who was fucking with you right now? Because nobody's here. And I think he just kind of like shook it off like he couldn't believe it. And that was the last thing I think that really happened experience-wise. Obviously, there's still some weird feelings in that one corner of the house whenever I go over there to get something. And I'm sure if I went over there and talked about it a bunch, shit would start happening again. And I really want to go back at night and film and maybe see if I can do like an EVP or something, because I don't live there anymore. I can do whatever I want. I mean, I'm not gonna piss it off. I just want to go over there and ask questions and see if I can get some answers and be like, is there anyone here that would like to talk? You know, who are you? What's your story? What happened to you? Why are you still here? Why have you not moved on? See if I can catch something, because I think it would be so cool, but I was too scared to do it when I lived there because it's gonna follow me up into my bedroom. So that is my ghost story of the haunted house that I lived in for years and just moved out of this past year. So I'm still very wary when I hear noises and stuff. Now I'm thinking this house could be haunted, which excites me because I love ghosts and I love haunted houses. And after a while, besides that one day that freaked me out, even as freaked out as I got, I never was like, we need to leave. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, cool, there's a ghost here. I'm gonna try and talk to it. Like, I was down for it. But then my Ouija board session made it go away, so that didn't work. But maybe I'll go back, and if I do go back, I'm definitely filming something. Maybe I can post something. I don't know. I don't know when I plan on doing this either. But I still have to go back and get storage out of that house, and I'm not looking forward to going over there just to move shit and feel this, like, someone staring at me. I'm not looking forward to that at all. But maybe I'll set up a camera or something. Obviously, I'll be doing it during the daytime, but it didn't matter what time of day it was, you felt that feeling. But maybe I'll set up a camera and see if anything weird happens during the day while I'm moving stuff. And then once everything's moved out, go back in and do, I don't know if I want to do a Ouija session in the house. Maybe just go and see if I can get some EVP or something. And see if there's anything interesting to see there. But yeah, again, that's my ghost story. Please thumbs up this video if you liked it. Feel free to subscribe especially if you would like to, and if you'd like me to go back to the house and film it, comment and let me know, because if anyone really wants me to do that, I'm down. I'm down. I'll be going to visit my old roommates, basically. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.